Lyndon Baines Johnson's presidency was during a tumultuous period of time. Through analysing his time in office with regard to his response to the Vietnam War, civil rights, as well as initiatives like the Great Society, I will address the debate surrounding whether Johnson was a cynic or an idealist. Robert Caro has somewhat perfectly summed up the dialogue surrounding Johnson by conveying him as possessing perhaps the most idealistic vision of government of any American president, and of staggering energy, but also a man of crushing ambition, shocking crudeness, unremitting dishonesty, and terrible cruelty. Caro notes that a hallmark of Johnson's career has been a willingness to march with any ally who would help his personal achievement. He argues that the perceived solidarity with the poor and people of colour that Johnson exhibited when the Civil Rights Act was established was used as a ploy to gain credibility amongst the senior Kennedy staff, who detested Johnson due to his legislative record of defending the South from civil rights. Therefore, Caro suggests that Johnson utilised ethics as an instrument for achieving his strategic political goals, and henceforth falls into the cynic category. Whilst Caro reflects a more cynical side of Johnson, he also recognises Johnson as inherently idealistic, who was eager to ingrain his notion of liberty into the minds of the public. In June 1965, Johnson said, "It is not enough just to open the gates of opportunity. We seek not just equality as a right and a theory, but equality as a fact and as a result." The implication of these statements reflect Johnson's hopes in creating a society whereby all people are treated equitably, one where everyone is able to be an idealist in their own right. Johnson's Great Society speech is testament to his idealist values. The plan for the Great Society was highly progressive in theory and is known as one of the most progressive and influential liberal projects. Not only did the Great Society offer a broad set of goals that would impact across a wide range of facets of life, it spread hope in a new American dream and would encourage notions of constant innovation and change. Testament to Johnson's idealist views is his speech whereby he stated, "Great Society is not a safe harbour, a resting place, a final objective. It is a challenge constantly renewed, beckoning us towards a destiny where the meaning of our lives matches the marvellous products of our labour." The values and initiatives highlighted by the Great Society reflect Johnson's idealistic views towards the future. Moreover, social historians such as Joshua Zeitz asserts that Johnson promoted dozens of landmark bills and signed them into existence. Moving on, it is argued that Johnson's domestic policy towards the Vietnam War revealed a lack of care for the American people. This sentiment was widely held in the late 60s, as seen through a Washington Post cartoon posted in 1967 by cartoonist Herbert Bloch. The cartoon shows a flow of resources towards Vietnam that was starving Johnson's domestic agenda and his goals for the Great Society. Some historians assert that Johnson's incapacity to balance the war and domestic issues, as well as his misleading statements to the American people on the cost of the war that were inherently anti-democratic and exacerbated the depiction of Johnson as a cynic. Whilst the war was inherited by Johnson, his policies failed to alleviate the situation. It is generally believed that the war was a significant factor and drained the significance of Johnson's Great Society. This is evident after 1967, whereby deep cuts in domestic spending before any tax proposal would be considered to amend the $2 billion cost per month of the war. Randall Woods argues that the idealism that drove the Civil Rights Movement and the Great Society also drove the Vietnam War. In his book, Woods portrays Johnson as a man whose passionate commitment to advancing civil rights and ending poverty seemed in contradiction with his leadership during the Vietnam War years. Yet, he notes that these features are all branches from the same idealist root. He also asserts that in terms of domestic political sphere, Johnson believed that ending the war was not an option and would produce great conservative backlash that would destroy the advances that he had made in support of the civil rights movement. Woods notes that the only reason for the Civil Rights Act of 64 and 5 being passed was that Southern segregationalists allowed it to be passed on the point of Johnson's wartime policies. This therefore was a great triumph, and highlights that while some of his actions may have impacted America in a poor way, that they were all rooted at the cause of his idealist views. Ultimately, one cannot forget that Johnson, among other things, signed major legislation to expand civil rights, fight poverty, improve education, establish Medicare, and clean up the environment. Through analysing his political agenda and aspects of his presidency, such as the Great Society and Vietnam War, it is evident that he was more of an idealist who, in some circumstances, failed to successfully fulfill his vision in the face of a tumultuous period in history.